The Odyssey, Extract 3, The Cyclops. With a great crash, he threw the huge bundle of dry wood down inside the cavern, giving us such a fright that we hastily retreated into an inner recess. He then picked up a huge stone with which he closed the entrance. It was a mighty slab. 22 four-wheeled wagons couldn't shift such a massive stone from the entrance. Such was the monstrous size of the rock with which he closed the cave. He spied us. "Strangers!" he cried. Our hearts sank. The booming voice and the very sight of the monster filled us with panic. Still, I managed to find the words to answer him. "We are Achaeans," I said. "On our way back from Troy. We find ourselves here as supplicants at your knees in the hope that you may give us hospitality. Remember your duty to the gods. Guests are sacred to Zeus." He answered me promptly and out of his pitiless heart. "Stranger, you must be a fool to order me to fear or revere the gods. We Cyclops care for nothing for Zeus, nor for the rest of the blessed gods, since we are so much stronger than they are." The cruel brute jumped up and, reaching towards my men, seized a couple and dashed their brains out against the floor as though they'd been puppies. Their brains ran out on the ground and soaked the earth. Limb by limb he tore them to pieces to make his meal, which he devoured like a mountain lion, leaving nothing, neither entrail or flesh, marrow nor bones, while we, weeping, lifted our hands to Zeus in horror at the ghastly sight. We felt completely helpless. When the Cyclops had filled his great belly with the meal of human flesh, which he washed down with unwatered milk, he stretched himself out for sleep among his flocks inside the cave. On first thoughts, I planned to summon up my courage, draw my sharp sword from the scabbard at my side, creep up to him, feel for the right place with my hand, and stab him in the breast where the liver's supported by the midriff. But on second thoughts, I refrained, realizing that it would seal our own fate as well as his, because we would have found it impossible, with our unaided hands, to push aside the huge rock with which he'd closed the great mouth of the cave. So, with sighs, and groans, we waited for the blessed light of day. He had hardly spoken before he toppled over and fell face upwards on the floor, where he lay with his great neck twisted to one side, and all-compelling sleep overpowered him. In his drunken stupor he vomited, and a stream of wine mixed with the morsels of men's flesh poured from his throat. I went at once and thrust our pole deep under the ashes of the fire. When the fierce glow from the olive stake warned me that it was about to catch alight in flames, I withdrew it from the fire. Seizing the olive pole, my men drove its sharpened end into the Cyclops' eye, while I used my weight from above to twist it home, like a man's boring a ship's timber with a drill which his mates below him twirl with a strap they hold at either end, so that it spins continuously. In much the same way, we handled our pole with its red-hot point and twisted it in the eye until the blood boiled up around the burning wood. The scorching heat singed his lids and brows all round, while his eyeball blazed and the very roots crackled in the flame. The Cyclops' eye hissed around the olive stake in the same way that an axe hisses when the smith plunges it into cold water to quench and strengthen the iron. He gave a dreadful shriek, "Ah!" which echoed round the rocky walls, and we backed away from him in terror while he pulled the stake from his eye, streaming with blood. Then he hurled it away from him with frenzied hands and raised a great shout to the other Cyclops who lived in the neighbouring caves along the windy heights. Hearing his screams, they came up from every quarter and, gathering outside the cave, asked him what the matter was. "What on earth is wrong with you, Polyphemus? Why must you disturb the peaceful night and spoil our sleep with all this shouting? Is a robber driving off your sheep, or is somebody trying by treachery or violence to kill you?" Out of the cave came mighty Polyphemus's voice in reply. "Oh, my friends, it's nobody's treachery, not violence, that is doing me to death." "Well then," came the reply, "if you alone and nobody is assaulting you, you must be sick, and sickness comes from the almighty Zeus and cannot be helped. All you can do is pray to your father, the Lord Poseidon." And off they went, while I laughed to myself at the way in which my cunning notion of a false name had taken them in. The Cyclops, still moaning in agonies of pain, groped about with his hands and pushed the rock away from the mouth of the cave. Then he sat down in the doorway and stretched out both arms in hope of catching us in the act of slipping out among the sheep. What a fool he must have thought me. Meanwhile, I was cudgelling my brain for the best possible course, trying to save my friends and myself. It was a matter of life or death. We were in mortal peril. Odysseus ties his men underneath the rams so that they can exit the cave without Polyphemus knowing. They tie them underneath the sheep. The last of the flock to come up to the doorway was the big ram, burdened by his own fleece and by Odysseus, with thoughts racing. "Oh, sweet ram," Polyphemus said, "why are you the last of the flock to pass out of the cave like this? You have never before lagged behind the others, but always stepped so proudly out, and are the first of them to crop the lush shoots of grass, first to make your way to the flowing stream, and first to want to return to the fold when evening falls. Yet today you are last of all. You must be grieved for your master's eye, blinded by a wicked man and his cursed friends, when they robbed me of my wits with wine. If only you could find a voice to tell me where he's hiding from my fury, oh, I'd hammer him and splash his brains all over the floor of the cave, and my heart would find some relief from the suffering which that nobody has caused me." As the men set sail, Odysseus shouts derisive words at Polyphemus, so not very nice words, some insults, and the Cyclops throws a huge rock at them, which nearly brings their ship back to land. Odysseus's men beg him not to further antagonize Polyphemus, but he doesn't listen. "Why do you want to provoke the savage in this obstinate way? We're within easy range of him." But my temper was up. Their words did not dissuade me, and in my rage I shouted back once more, "Oi, Cyclops! If anyone ever asks how you came by your blindness, tell him your eye was put out by Odysseus, sacker of cities, the son of Laertes, and I live in Ithaca." At this, Polyphemus prays to his father Poseidon to avenge Odysseus's blinding of him.